Tension mounts as Jimin uncovers Jungkook's betrayal on live TV, turning family loyalty into a public humiliation. Secrets, lies, and the ultimate reckoning. The camera zoomed in on Jungkook's face, a mask of forced confidence as his eyes darted between the flashing studio lights and the stunned crowd. He could feel the weight of the lie pressing down on him, the tension in the air so thick it felt suffocating. Jimin stood off to the side, arms crossed, his gaze sharp. His jaw clenched as the lie spilled from Jungkook's lips, thick with rehearsed charm. "I never told him that," Jungkook said, his voice steady, though the quiver in his hands betrayed him. Jimin's heart raced. The live broadcast wasn't supposed to be this way. The interview was meant to be a simple family chat, a fun segment for the fans. Instead, everything was spiraling into chaos. But Jimin knew the truth. Jungkook had lied to their brother, Taehyung, on national television. And Jimin was about to expose it in the most public way possible. "You're lying," Jimin said, his voice low but carrying across the studio. The words cut through the tension, silencing the bustling crew in an instant. Jungkook froze, his eyes locking with Jimin's. The audience held its breath. Everyone knew about the brothers' bond. Jungkook had always been the charismatic younger sibling, the one who could do no wrong. But Jimin wasn't about to let him get away with it this time. "Jimin, what are you talking about?" Jungkook asked, a forced laugh following his words. His charm was slipping, and Jimin could see it. "Don't pretend like I don't know what you said to Taehyung," Jimin continued, stepping forward. His voice was a knife, each word laced with years of frustration and betrayal. "You told him I wasn't reliable. You told him I'd fail him." The shock that swept across Jungkook's face was unmistakable. His brow furrowed as if trying to piece together how everything had just unraveled. But it was too late to cover up the truth. "Jimin, please. You've always been the favorite." Jimin cut him off, his voice rising now. "And now, you think you can just lie to our brother and get away with it?" The audience was no longer quiet. Whispers erupted, the murmurs growing louder, cameras flashing. Jimin's words had cracked something open, something that was never meant to be exposed. The brothers had always had their tensions, but this was more than a mere sibling spat. This was betrayal. Jungkook tried to recover, his charming smile returning as he faced the camera, but it didn't reach his eyes. "That's not true, Jimin. I was just trying to." "Trying to what?" Jimin scoffed, taking another step forward. "Trying to make me look bad? Trying to make me seem like the villain?" The room was thick with discomfort, everyone watching as Jungkook struggled to regain control. But it wasn't just Jimin who knew the truth. The audience could feel the shift. There was something off, and it wasn't just Jimin. Jungkook's lies were starting to unravel, thread by thread. "I don't need to hear any more of this," Jimin said, his eyes burning with a mix of anger and betrayal. "I've had enough." And with that, he turned on his heel and walked off set, leaving Jungkook standing there, the air around him thick with the weight of his humiliation. The cameras, the lights, the studio, it all felt too much. Jungkook stood frozen for a moment, his chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. The silence in the studio seemed deafening now, and the audience could feel the heat of his shame. The broadcast had been hijacked, and there was no going back. The brothers' relationship, which had always been under the public eye, was now exposed for what it truly was: fragile, fractured, and filled with secrets. As Jimin disappeared into the backstage area, the chaos outside grew. Taehyung, who had been watching from behind the scenes, felt his heart sink. He had always trusted Jungkook, had always believed in his younger brother's word. But now, seeing the way Jimin had confronted him, he wasn't sure what to believe anymore. Jungkook, now left in the spotlight alone, struggled to salvage the situation. I didn't mean it like that," he stammered, his voice barely audible. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Please, don't." But the damage was done. The live broadcast had caught more than just a family squabble. It had exposed the fracture lines that no one had seen before, and the world had watched it all unfold in real time. Jimin's words rang in his mind long after the broadcast ended. "You're lying." The sting of that accusation echoed through his thoughts, leaving him wondering if he would ever be able to rebuild what had been torn apart. The phone rang incessantly, vibrating violently on the sleek surface of Jimin's kitchen table. He stared at it, his stomach in knots. He knew who it was. His heart pounded in his chest, but he didn't reach for the phone. He didn't want to hear Jungkook's voice right now. After the live broadcast, everything had spiraled. Social media was in an uproar. Fans and critics alike flooded the internet with their reactions. Some sided with Jimin, others with Jungkook. The brothers' relationship was now a trending topic, dissected and analyzed like a crime scene, every detail scrutinized. The words "Jimin caught Jungkook lying" were splashed across headlines everywhere. Jimin, sitting in his apartment alone, rubbed his temples. He never imagined his life would unfold like this. It had all started out so simple, an innocent interview. Now, his family's dirty laundry was aired for the world to see. And the worst part? He didn't even know what to believe anymore. Jungkook had always been his little brother, the one he protected, the one who always seemed to have everything under control. But today, Jimin saw something else. A side of Jungkook that scared him. Something dark. Something manipulative. His phone rang again. He picked it up this time, reluctantly. "Jimin, please listen to me." Jungkook's voice was strained, desperate. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I swear. I was just trying to protect you. Protect us." Jimin leaned back in his chair, eyes closed, trying to push down the surge of anger rising within him. He wasn't sure whether to be relieved by Jungkook's apology or more furious that he was still lying. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the manipulation. Jungkook had played them all, and now he was trying to play Jimin too. "Protect us," Jimin repeated, his voice cold. "You mean by lying to Taehyung? By throwing me under the bus on national television? That's your idea of protecting me?" There was a long pause on the other end. Jungkook's breath was shaky. "I wasn't thinking straight," Jungkook said. "I was under pressure. You don't know how hard it's been for me. Everyone expects me to be perfect. You thought you could tear me down to make yourself look better?" Jimin interrupted, his voice rising with each word. "This isn't about me, Jungkook. This is about you. This is about you feeling sorry for yourself because you can't handle being anything less than perfect." Jungkook sighed, a sound full of frustration and defeat. "That's not what it was. You've always been the strong one, Jimin. The reliable one. And I've always been in your shadow. I thought if I could just prove that I wasn't weak, that I wasn't just the little brother, then maybe things would change." Jimin stood up, pacing the room, trying to calm himself. "And lying to Taehyung was supposed to fix that? I never thought you'd find out," Jungkook muttered, his voice barely audible. "I thought I could cover it up, just for a little while. But everything's falling apart now." Jimin let out a bitter laugh. "You've made sure of that, haven't you? Now it's all falling apart, and you're the one who's left standing in the ruins." The line went silent again, the tension heavy between them. But Jimin wasn't ready to let this go. He had to make one thing clear: this wasn't just a minor misunderstanding. This was something much bigger. Something that was going to change everything between them. "Jungkook," Jimin said, his voice softer now but no less resolute. "I need you to understand something. This isn't about us being brothers. This is about trust. And right now, I don't trust you. You've shattered everything between us." Jungkook's voice cracked. "Please, Jimin, don't say that." "I have to say it," Jimin replied, the weight of his words sinking in. "Because I don't know who you are anymore. The person I thought I knew, the person I would have given anything to protect, he's gone." There was a long pause. Jungkook's breathing was heavy on the other end, as though he was trying to keep himself together. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Jimin's heart tightened at the sound of his brother's broken voice. For a moment, he wanted to say something comforting, to reach out and make things right. But he knew that this wasn't the time. Not yet. "We'll talk later," Jimin said, before hanging up the phone. Later that evening, Jimin found himself sitting in the dim light of his living room, staring at the television, though he wasn't really watching it. His mind kept drifting back to the conversation with Jungkook. He couldn't shake the feeling that something deeper was going on. Something that neither of them had addressed. It wasn't just a simple lie. It was as if Jungkook had been hiding something far bigger. And Jimin couldn't ignore the gnawing suspicion in his gut that there was a secret he wasn't being told. Suddenly, his phone buzzed again. He picked it up, and his eyes widened when he saw the message. It was from Taehyung. "I know what's going on. Call me." Jimin's pulse quickened. What did Taehyung mean by that? Did he know something more? Was he about to reveal the secret that had been eating away at their family? Jimin couldn't wait any longer. He needed answers. The next day, Jimin met with Taehyung in a quiet cafe. Taehyung was already there when he arrived, sitting at a corner table, looking as if he had been waiting for hours. The tension between them was palpable, but neither spoke immediately. Jimin slid into the chair across from Taehyung, waiting for him to say something first. "You're not the only one who's been lied to, Jimin," Taehyung said, his voice low but filled with a quiet fury. "I found out something last night, something that changes everything." Jimin's stomach flipped. "What are you talking about?" Taehyung leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Jungkook didn't just lie about you. He lied about me too. And he's been hiding something from both of us. Something he's been keeping secret for a long time." Jimin's mind raced, his thoughts tumbling over each other. "What is it, Taehyung? What's he hiding?" Taehyung's eyes flickered, and for the first time, Jimin saw a flicker of fear in his brother's expression. "He's been in debt," Taehyung whispered. "Deep in debt. And he lied about everything. His investments, his business deals. All of it was to cover up the fact that he was drowning." Jimin felt the room tilt beneath him. "No way. Jungkook would never do that. You don't understand, Jimin," Taehyung continued, his voice trembling with the weight of his revelation. "He didn't just lie to you. He lied to all of us. And now he's trying to drag us down with him." Jimin's world tilted. The brother he thought he knew, the one he had always defended, was hiding secrets darker than he ever could have imagined. His hands shook as he stared at Taehyung, the enormity of the situation sinking in. "But why didn't he tell us?" Jimin asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Taehyung shook his head, his expression distant. "Because he was too proud to admit that he wasn't perfect. Too scared of losing everything. But now we have to decide whether we're going to stand by him or let him fall." As Jimin walked out of the cafe, the weight of the world on his shoulders, he couldn't help but feel a sense of dread creeping over him. Jungkook's lies weren't just about family anymore. They were about everything they had built together. The past was coming back to haunt them, and Jimin had no idea how they were going to fix this. But one thing was certain. Their bond, once unbreakable, was now shattered, and the secrets they were keeping from each other were only just beginning to surface. The cold wind cut through Jimin's jacket as he stepped out of the cafe. The world outside seemed indifferent to the chaos that had just been set in motion. As he walked down the street, his mind raced with everything he had just learned. Taehyung's words echoed in his mind. He's been in debt, deep in debt. Jimin's chest tightened with every step. The realization that Jungkook, the same Jungkook he'd always protected, had been hiding such a massive secret, shattered something inside him. Was their bond really built on lies? Was the love between them just a facade? But there was something more. Something about the way Taehyung had looked at him, as if he was holding back more. "There's something else, isn't there?" Jimin had asked, but Taehyung had just shaken his head. The night had grown colder, and with each passing second, the weight of the situation felt heavier. How had Jungkook managed to keep this from everyone? How long had he been living this lie? By the time Jimin arrived at his apartment, the sky was dark, and his mind was no clearer. His phone buzzed again, and when he saw the message from Jungkook, his heart skipped a beat. "We need to talk." Jimin didn't reply immediately. The rage and confusion were bubbling inside him, but he couldn't give in. Not yet. He couldn't just let Jungkook off the hook. Not when everything he thought he knew was falling apart. After a few minutes, the doorbell rang. Jimin wasn't surprised. He had been expecting this. He opened the door to find Jungkook standing there, looking like a man on the edge. His hair was messy, his eyes red from lack of sleep, and his shoulders slumped as if the weight of the world had finally caught up with him. Jimin, please let me explain. Jungkook began, his voice strained. He stepped forward, but Jimin didn't move. He didn't know what to say or how to say it. His brother's pleading was getting harder to ignore, but the betrayal ran too deep. Too much had happened in such a short time. Jimin crossed his arms, staring at Jungkook. Explain what, Jungkook? The part where you've been hiding your debts from us for months? Or the part where you lied to Taehyung and me on national television? Jungkook winced at the mention of the broadcast. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Jimin could see the desperation in his eyes, the same desperation he had seen in the cafe when Taehyung had told him the truth. Jungkook wasn't just scared of being caught. He was terrified of losing everything. Jimin? Jungkook finally whispered, his voice breaking. I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you or Taehyung. But I was afraid. Afraid of what would happen if the truth came out. I thought I could fix it, but I didn't know how. Jimin's hands clenched at his sides. You thought you could fix it by lying to us? By lying to everyone. I didn't know what else to do. Jungkook's voice rose, but then he softened, his gaze dropping. You've always been the strong one. You were always the one who had everything together, and I wasn't good enough. I couldn't even keep my business afloat. I didn't want you to see me as a failure. Jimin's anger flared up again. You think hiding it from us makes you less of a failure? You think pretending everything is fine is going to fix this? Jungkook's eyes flashed with something Jimin had never seen before. Something broken and raw. I didn't want you to look at me like that. I didn't want you to pity me. Jimin let out a bitter laugh, his frustration boiling over. Pity you? You think I'd pity you, Jungkook? I've been there for you through everything. But this? Jimin waved a hand in the air, gesturing to the chaos. This is different. Jungkook's shoulders sagged, the last of his defenses crumbling. I know, he whispered. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence between them was deafening. Jimin could feel the years of unspoken tension, the weight of the lies that had been building up for so long. But there was something else in the air too. Something that wasn't just anger or betrayal. It was regret. Jungkook took a step closer, his voice barely audible. I never wanted you to find out like this. I should have told you sooner. I should have trusted you more. Jimin didn't know how to respond. His heart was torn. On the one hand, he was furious at the betrayal, at the lies, at the way Jungkook had dragged their family into this mess. But on the other hand, he saw his brother in front of him, looking vulnerable and broken, and he couldn't help but feel some sympathy. This wasn't the Jungkook he knew. This wasn't the carefree, confident brother he'd always looked out for. This was someone else entirely. Jungkook. Jimin started, his voice softening. What happened? How did it all get so bad? Jungkook hesitated, looking down at the floor as if the truth was too painful to say aloud. But after a moment, he spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. I've been involved with the wrong people, he admitted. People who promised me success, but they only dragged me deeper into debt. I made bad investments, bad decisions. And I tried to cover it up by borrowing more money. But it only made things worse. Jimin felt a knot form in his stomach. You've been gambling with our future, with everything we've worked for. Jungkook's eyes filled with tears. I didn't know what else to do. I was drowning, Jimin. And I didn't want to lose you or Taehyung. I didn't want to disappoint anyone. Jimin's heart softened, but the anger still lingered. So you thought lying was the answer? You thought hiding everything was the way out? Jungkook nodded miserably. I thought if I kept it all under control, maybe it wouldn't get worse. But I was wrong. I've been lying to everyone, and now, I don't know how to fix it. Jimin exhaled, running a hand through his hair. His mind was spinning. The betrayal was still there, but the situation was more complicated than he had imagined. His brother wasn't just a liar. He was someone who had been cornered, trapped by his own choices. I don't know what to say to you right now, Jimin said, his voice strained. I don't know if I can forgive you yet, but I'll help you. I'll figure out a way to get us out of this mess. But you need to be honest with me. No more lies. No more hiding things. Jungkook looked up, his eyes full of gratitude and guilt. I promise, Jimin. No more lies. That night, as Jimin lay in bed, he couldn't stop thinking about the conversation with Jungkook. His mind replayed every word, every emotion that had passed between them. This wasn't just a fight between brothers anymore. It was a battle to salvage the remnants of their family, their future, and their trust in each other. And the worst part? There was still one secret Jungkook hadn't told him. Something he wasn't ready to share. Jimin could feel it in his bones. There was more to this story. Something darker. And he was determined to find out what it was. The phone rang just as Jimin was about to step out for the day. He groaned inwardly, already dreading what the call might be. Jungkook? Taehyung? Or perhaps someone from the media looking to get their hands on the latest scandal. But when he looked at the caller ID, his breath caught in his throat. It was an unknown number. Something told him that this call would change everything. He hesitated for a moment before answering. Hello, Jimin. I need to talk to you. The voice on the other end was unfamiliar, cold, yet eerily familiar. You might want to sit down for this. Jimin's heart pounded. Who is this? Let's just say I know things about your brother Jungkook. Things he doesn't want anyone to know. You need to listen carefully, Jimin. Jimin's instincts told him to hang up, but the words, the warning, had already grabbed hold of him. What things? Who are you? A brief silence followed before the voice continued, quieter now, as if checking if anyone was listening. I've been a part of his life for a long time, longer than you know. He's been keeping secrets, big ones. And I think it's time you knew the truth. Jimin's breath hitched. What do you want? I want to make sure you understand what's going on before everything falls apart. Meet me at the old warehouse by the docks at 8 p.m. Don't bring anyone. Just you. Trust me, you'll want to hear this. The line went dead before Jimin could protest. As the clock ticked closer to 8 p.m., Jimin's mind raced. He had been running through every possible scenario, trying to figure out who could be calling him with this kind of information. It didn't make sense. Jungkook had always been the one in control, the one who kept things under wraps. But now it seemed like every corner of his life was being exposed, piece by piece. He didn't want to involve Taehyung. Not yet. But there was no way he could just ignore this call. Whoever this person was, they knew something. And it was something Jimin needed to hear. At 7:45 p.m., Jimin threw on his jacket and left the apartment, his footsteps echoing down the stairwell as he made his way to the docks. When Jimin arrived, the warehouse was as eerie as he had imagined. The air was thick with the smell of salt water, the dim light from a nearby street lamp casting long, haunting shadows across the rotting walls. He shivered despite the warmth of his jacket, the sound of the waves crashing against the shore adding to the unsettling atmosphere. He walked into the warehouse, his footsteps hesitant as they echoed in the empty space. The building was silent, too silent. Then, a voice spoke from the darkness. Jimin. He spun around, his heart leaping in his chest. From the shadows emerged a figure, tall and lean, their face obscured by the darkness. Who are you? Jimin demanded, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins. The figure stepped forward, revealing a familiar face, one he had never expected to see again. Surprised to see me, Jimin? The man said, his voice smooth but laced with an undeniable edge. Jimin's eyes widened. You, what are you doing here? It was none other than Minsik, an old acquaintance from Jungkook's past. They had known each other since childhood, but Jimin hadn't seen him in years. The last time they'd crossed paths, Jungkook had warned him to stay away from Minsik, and Jimin had never understood why. Now he did. I've been keeping an eye on things, Minsik said, his lips curling into a smirk. You could say I'm invested in Jungkook's future. Jimin's stomach churned. He remembered the way Minsik always seemed to shadow his brother, always lurking in the background. But he had never fully understood the extent of their relationship. Not until now. Why are you telling me this? Jimin asked, his voice low, wary. What do you want from me? Minsik stepped closer, his eyes gleaming with something Jimin couldn't quite place. I want you to understand what's really going on with Jungkook. The stuff he's been hiding from you. The stuff he doesn't want you to know. Jimin's mind raced, but he kept his composure. What are you talking about? What could he possibly be hiding now? Minsik chuckled darkly. It's not just the debts, Jimin. Oh, that's part of it, sure. But there's more. A lot more. Jungkook's been making deals with people who have interests that go beyond money. Jimin's breath caught. What kind of deals? Minsik's smile widened, and he leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. I'm talking about criminal deals. Jungkook's been involved in things that could get him, and everyone around him, into serious trouble. Drugs, arms dealing, you name it. Jimin recoiled, his mind struggling to process the words. No, that's not possible. I didn't think so either, Minsik said with a shrug. But I've seen it with my own eyes. He's deeper in it than you think. And if you don't want to get dragged down with him, you need to make a choice. Jimin shook his head in disbelief. You're lying. Minsik's expression hardened. Am I? Go ahead, ask Jungkook. But I can tell you right now he won't deny it. Because he can't. The room seemed to spin as Jimin's thoughts collided. His brother, the person he had always tried to protect, the person who had been the cornerstone of his world, was mixed up in something so much darker than he could have imagined. And then, just as suddenly, Minsik's tone shifted, becoming almost conspiratorial. I'll make you a deal, Jimin. If you want to save him, if you want to fix all this mess, you need to stop protecting him. Because the deeper this goes, the harder it will be to fix. And I'll tell you this. It's not just his future on the line anymore. It's yours too. Jimin felt a chill run down his spine. Minsik's words were like daggers, cutting through the haze of confusion and leaving nothing but sharp clarity. The truth was worse than he had feared. Jimin stood there in stunned silence, the weight of Minsik's revelations settling over him like a heavy cloud. He had always known Jungkook wasn't perfect. But this was a betrayal so much darker than a few lies and bad investments. His brother was caught in something bigger, more dangerous, and Jimin wasn't sure if there was any coming back from it. I can't just walk away from him, Jimin said, his voice barely a whisper. He's my brother. Minsik's eyes softened, but only for a moment. I'm not asking you to walk away, Jimin, but you need to face the truth. You can't protect him from this anymore. It's too late. The silence between them stretched, thick and suffocating. As Minsik turned to leave, he paused. By the way, Jimin, one more thing. If you think this ends here, think again. Jungkook's not the only one with skeletons in the closet. You might want to take a closer look at your own past. And with that, he disappeared into the darkness, leaving Jimin standing in the cold, more lost than ever. Jimin couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, the darkness of the warehouse, Minsik's ominous words, and the look of devastation in Jungkook's eyes flooded his mind. What Minsik had said twisted like a knife in his chest. Jungkook was involved in criminal dealings. The thought of his little brother, the boy who used to make him laugh with his innocent jokes and wide-eyed wonder, tangled in something so dark felt impossible to digest. And then there was Minsik's final words. Look at your own past, Jimin. You might be hiding just as much as your brother. Jimin felt a shiver run through him. Could Minsik be right? Was there something in his own life, something he had buried, that could change everything? The notion was ludicrous, but a small, gnawing feeling told him there might be a grain of truth to it. The next day, Jimin sat across from Taehyung in the same cafe where they'd spoken just days before. The air between them was thick with unspoken words, but the tension was different now. Jimin wasn't sure if he was ready to tell Taehyung about Minsik, about the criminal dealings, or even about his own growing doubts. But there was something in Taehyung's eyes that made him feel like he couldn't keep everything inside. Taehyung, Jimin said, his voice tight. We need to talk. Taehyung didn't look surprised, just resigned. He nodded slowly, as if he had already guessed what was coming. About Jungkook? Jimin glanced around the cafe, lowering his voice. Yeah, I don't know what to think anymore. Something's wrong, Taehyung. It's worse than we thought. He's not just in debt. He's mixed up in some dangerous stuff. I don't know how to get him out of it. Taehyung's face fell, his hands clenched around his coffee cup. I had a feeling it was more than the money problems. What are we going to do? Jimin ran a hand through his hair. I don't know. I don't know if he can get out of it. Or if we can. The weight of the conversation settled between them, heavy and suffocating. The man they both loved, the one they'd both fought to protect, was unraveling, and neither of them knew how to stop it. But Jimin had a deeper fear, one that gnawed at him late at night when he couldn't sleep, when the silence felt too loud. He was afraid of what else was hidden in the shadows, what might come to light and destroy everything they had left. Suddenly, Jimin's phone buzzed. The message from Jungkook was short, but the implications were enough to make his blood run cold. I need to talk. Meet me tonight. 9 p.m. Don't tell Taehyung. Jimin felt his stomach lurch. What was Jungkook planning? Why had he specified not to tell Taehyung? He excused himself from the table with a shaky smile, his heart racing in his chest. He had to see Jungkook. He had to find out the truth, even if it was the last thing he wanted to be. By the time Jimin arrived at the designated meeting spot, the night had descended like a cloak, smothering everything in its shadow. The park was nearly deserted, the only sounds the distant hum of city traffic and the rustle of leaves in the wind. He spotted Jungkook near the fountain, his back to Jimin, hands shoved deep into his jacket pockets. His figure was tense, his posture rigid. Jungkook, Jimin called out, his voice hesitant but firm. Jungkook turned slowly, his eyes hollow, like a man carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. His face was gaunt, the bright spark Jimin once knew replaced by something darker, something desperate. You came, Jungkook said softly, almost to himself. I didn't know if you would. Jimin swallowed hard, his throat dry. Of course I came. What's going on, Jungkook? What aren't you telling me? Jungkook took a deep breath, his eyes flickering between Jimin and the ground. There's more, Jimin. More than the debts, more than the deals I made. I've been keeping something from you, and I don't know how to fix it. I'm not just in danger. We all are. Jimin's heart skipped. What do you mean? What's going on? Jungkook looked up, his eyes locking with Jimin's. It's not just money or criminal connections. There's someone else involved, someone dangerous. I tried to get out of it, but they won't let me. And now it's not just my life on the line. It's yours, Taehyung's, everyone we care about. Jimin felt a cold rush of fear seep into his veins. Who, Jungkook? Who's involved? Jungkook's face twisted with regret. Minsik. He's the one who pulled me into all of this. He's the one I thought I could trust, but now he's a bigger threat than anyone else. He's been working with people who don't play by the rules, and now they want their money back. The words hit Jimin like a punch to the gut. Minsik. The man who had once been his brother's friend, a shadow in their lives. The same man who had planted doubts in his mind just days before. How deep does this go? Jimin thought, his mind racing. How could we have not seen this coming? Jungkook, what did you do? How did this happen? Jimin's voice cracked with frustration. I didn't want to fall this far, Jungkook said quietly, his voice barely a whisper. But Minsik, he manipulated me. He promised me a way out, a way to save everything. But it was all a lie. And now it's too late to fix it. Jimin felt the anger rise within him. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why didn't you trust me? But the anger was tinged with something else. The feeling that Jungkook was still the same person underneath all the lies and mistakes. He wasn't perfect, but he was still his brother. I'm going to fix this, Jimin said, his voice low but determined. I'm going to help you. We'll find a way to get out of this mess. Jungkook looked at him, his eyes filled with disbelief. How? How can we get out when everything is already falling apart? Jimin stepped closer, placing a hand on his brother's shoulder. We'll figure it out. But you need to be honest with me, Jungkook. No more secrets. We need to know everything. Every single thing. For a long moment, there was only silence between them, thick with unspoken words. Then Jungkook nodded, his expression grim. Okay, he said quietly. I'll tell you everything. But there's something else. Something I didn't want to tell you, about me. About my past. Jimin's stomach dropped. What? But before Jungkook could answer, a shadow stepped from behind a tree. A figure emerged into the dim light, their face half hidden beneath a hood. Jimin froze, his heart racing. Who's that? Jungkook's face drained of color. Jimin, no. This wasn't supposed to happen yet. The figure stepped forward, their voice cold and mocking. Well, if it isn't the golden boy and his brother. I think it's time we had a real conversation. The figure that emerged from the shadows was everything Jimin had feared but never thought would come to pass. Standing tall, his silhouette menacing in the dim light, the figure smirked, revealing a face that was all too familiar, though Jimin had hoped he would never have to see it again. It was Seokjin. Jimin's breath caught in his throat, and for a moment the world around him felt like it was slowing down. Seokjin. The very name sent chills down his spine. He had been a ghost from their past, someone who had disappeared after a betrayal that Jimin had never fully understood. That was until now. Seokjin wasn't just another figure from Jungkook's troubled past. He was the one who had orchestrated the lies, the one who had manipulated Jungkook into this dangerous spiral. And now he was standing right in front of them. What the hell are you doing here, Seokjin? Jimin's voice was hard, a growl of fury threatening to escape. He could feel the anger bubbling inside him, but there was something deeper, something more visceral, shifting beneath the surface. His heart pounded in his chest as he locked eyes with Seokjin. Seokjin laughed, his voice low and unsettling. Jimin, always so dramatic. You really thought you could fix this, huh? You really think you can just waltz in here, all noble, and save your precious little brother? Jungkook stepped back, his eyes wide with fear. Seokjin, please. I didn't mean for this to happen. Oh, shut up, Jungkook. Seokjin cut him off, his voice dripping with venom. You've been a disappointment from the start. Always so eager to play the victim. But let's not pretend this is just about you anymore. This is about all of you. Jimin's head spun. His mind raced as the words sank in. All of you. What did Seokjin mean? Was it just Jungkook he was threatening? Or was there more to this game than Jimin realized? I don't know what you think you're trying to do, Jimin said, his tone icy, his fists clenched. But I'm not scared of you, Seokjin. Whatever game you're playing, it's over. I'm going to put an end to this now. Seokjin raised an eyebrow, clearly amused by Jimin's defiance. End it? Oh, Jimin, you don't even know how deep this rabbit hole goes. You think you can just clean up the mess your brother made? You think you can protect everyone? You've already lost. The moment you stepped in to try to fix this, it was over. Jimin's blood ran cold. What are you talking about? Seokjin's smirk widened as he casually strolled toward them, as if the tension in the air didn't bother him at all. He stopped just a few feet away, leaning in close enough that Jimin could smell the cologne he wore, a bitter scent that made Jimin's skin crawl. You've been protecting Jungkook for years, haven't you? You've covered for him, bailed him out, tried to shield him from the world. But do you know why he's in this mess in the first place? Seokjin's voice was now a low whisper, just for Jimin to hear. It's because of you. You're the reason he's so messed up. You're the reason he felt like he couldn't live up to your expectations. Jimin froze. The words hit him like a slap to the face, sharp and disorienting. He had always thought that he was the one keeping Jungkook grounded, that he was the one protecting him. But was it possible that, in trying to shelter him from the world, he had pushed his brother into this dangerous corner? Seokjin saw the doubt in Jimin's eyes and pressed on. Oh, you didn't know? You've been living this perfect, shiny life, strong, confident, always the one everyone can rely on. But deep down, Jungkook's been drowning, Jimin. Drowning in your shadow. And that's why he made all those bad decisions. Because he didn't think he was enough for you. And that, my dear, is all on you. Jimin wanted to scream, to deny everything Seokjin was saying. But the truth lingered in the air like poison, seeping into his bones. Could he have been so blind? Was he really the one who had pushed Jungkook into making these choices? His mind raced with guilt and confusion. You're wrong, Jimin finally said, his voice shaky but defiant. I've always tried to help him. I've always been there for him. Seokjin's eyes gleamed with amusement. Help him? Or control him, Jimin? There's a difference, you know. Jungkook, who had been silent until now, suddenly spoke, his voice cracked with emotion. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I swear, Jimin, I never wanted any of this. But I felt like I had no choice. Every time I tried to step out of your shadow, it felt like I was failing you. Jimin looked at his brother, his heart heavy with 1,000 emotions. He had spent so many years trying to shield him from the world, but now it seemed like that very protection had been suffocating him. Jimin reached out, his voice softer now. Jungkook. I didn't know. I thought I was helping you. But I see now. I see where I went wrong. Tears welled up in Jungkook's eyes, and Jimin could feel the weight of his brother's pain. But the reality of the situation was pressing down on him. They weren't out of danger yet. Far from it. I didn't come here to watch you two have a heart-to-heart, Seokjin interrupted, his voice cutting through the moment. I came to finish what I started. With a sharp motion, Seekjin pulled out a folder from his jacket and tossed it onto the ground between them. This is the information I've been holding on to. The final piece of the puzzle. Your perfect little life, Jimin, your shiny, clean reputation? Gone. Just like that. If you don't do exactly what I say, if you don't play along, everything you've built will come crumbling down. Including your family. Jimin's eyes widened as he looked at the folder. He could feel his stomach twisting in knots, the sense of dread growing stronger. What could be in that folder? What did Seekjin know? His mind raced as he bent down to pick it up. But before he could open it, Jungkook stopped him. Don't, Jungkook said, his voice barely above a whisper. Don't look at it, Jimin. If we give him what he wants, we're playing into his hands. Seekjin's lips curled into a cruel smile. Smart boy. But the choice isn't yours to make anymore, Jungkook. It never was. Jimin felt the weight of the moment, the looming sense of impending disaster. He was being played like a pawn and the stakes were higher than ever. His family, his future, everything he held dear was on the line. But just as the tension reached its peak, something unexpected happened. The sound of a car engine roared in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. Jimin looked up, startled. Was this a rescue? Or a trap? The car screeched to a halt, and before anyone could react, a figure stepped out of the vehicle, a familiar face Jimin hadn't seen in years. It was Taehyung. Enough, Taehyung's voice rang out, his presence commanding as he approached them with a dangerous intensity in his eyes. Seekjin, you've been playing a dangerous game. But you're done now. Jimin's heart skipped. Taehyung had always been the one to pull him back from the edge. And now, with him here, there was a glimmer of hope, though Jimin wasn't sure what Taehyung had planned. Seekjin's face twisted with fury. You think you can stop me, Taehyung? You're nothing but a pawn in this game. All of you are. Taehyung's eyes narrowed as he stepped closer. Maybe. But this time, Seekjin, you're the one who's out of moves. The tension was so thick Jimin could almost taste it, like the metallic tang of fear hanging in the air. Taehyung, always the calm one in the storm, stood in front of them, his eyes narrowed, focused on Seekjin like a predator sizing up its prey. Seekjin, on the other hand, looked amused, as if this was all just a game he was playing with the brothers. But Jimin could sense the difference in the atmosphere. Something had shifted, something had broken, and whatever was about to happen next was going to change everything. Taehyung, Seekjin's voice was dripping with mockery. Really? You think you can take me down now? After all this time, you think you can just waltz in and play hero? I've been controlling this little family for far too long. Jimin's heart pounded. He had always thought of Taehyung as the rock, the protector, the one who kept them grounded. But even now, with all their lives on the line, Jimin wasn't sure who could really save them. Could Taehyung really stop Seekjin from tearing their lives apart? Taehyung didn't back down. His gaze was as sharp as ever. You're delusional, Seekjin. You've been hiding in the shadows for years, playing with people's lives like they're chess pieces. But this ends tonight. Seekjin laughed, the sound dark and bitter. You're all fools. You think you can just stop me? You don't understand how deep this runs. You're all too weak, too predictable. Jimin, trying to keep his voice steady despite the chaos inside, stepped forward. You're wrong. We're not weak and we're not predictable. If you think you can control us anymore, you're wrong. Seekjin looked at him, his smirk widening. Oh, Jimin, always the noble one, the protector. You've always been the one to hold everything together, haven't you? Well, you're about to find out that no amount of your noble intentions can save you now. Just as Seekjin finished speaking, Taehyung's voice cut through the air. Don't listen to him, Jimin. He's trying to play mind games with you. But before Jimin could respond, the sound of a phone ringing shattered the moment. It was Jimin's phone. His heart skipped as he glanced at the screen. It was Jungkook. For a second, everything felt suspended in time. He needed to talk to his brother to figure out how they could fix this mess. But the last thing he wanted was to involve Jungkook any more than he already had. Still, something told him this call might be the one to finally reveal everything. He pressed the answer button, holding the phone to his ear, his eyes never leaving Seekjin. Jimin, Jungkook's voice came through, shaky, almost frantic. Listen to me, Seekjin, he's not just trying to control us. He's been working with someone else. Someone you. Before Jungkook could finish, Seekjin's mocking voice rang out, Oh, you think your little brother is going to save you now, Jimin? He's the one who dug this hole deeper than either of you could have imagined. Jimin clenched his teeth, his hands shaking. Who are you working with, Seekjin? Who's behind this? Seekjin's eyes glinted with cold amusement, but for the first time there was a flicker of hesitation. You really don't know, do you? The silence between them was suffocating. Jimin's stomach twisted. He had always thought he knew everything about Jungkook. They had grown up together, shared their deepest fears and dreams. But now it seemed like there was something darker lurking beneath the surface, a secret that neither of them had ever seen coming. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the shadows, tall and imposing, blocking Jimin's view of Seokjin. Jimin froze as the figure came into the light. It was Minseok, the same Minseok who had tried to manipulate Jungkook into his criminal dealings. The same man who had whispered lies in their ears, trying to tear their family apart. But now, seeing him here with Seokjin standing so confidently as if he owned the world, something clicked in Jimin's mind. Seokjin smiled, the smirk cruel. "Meet my partner, Jimin? The man who's been pulling the strings all along." Minseok's cold eyes met Jimin's, and for a split second, Jimin saw something he hadn't expected: regret. It was brief, fleeting, but it was there. Minseok was part of this mess, and yet, in that moment, it seemed like he wasn't entirely on Seokjin's side. "You," Jimin's voice trembled, disbelief settling in. "You've been working with Seokjin? This whole time?" Minseok didn't respond. Instead, he took a step toward Jimin, his expression unreadable. "I never wanted it to go this far, Jimin. But there's no going back now. Too much has already happened." Jimin shook his head, the weight of it all pressing down on him. "What is this? Why are you doing this? What do you want from us?" Seokjin's eyes gleamed with malice. "You're all pawns in a much bigger game, Jimin. You've been playing with the wrong people for too long. This isn't just about money. This is about power. And I'm taking it, whether you like it or not." Before Jimin could say anything, Minseok stepped forward, his voice low. "It's not too late, Jimin. You can still walk away from this. You can still save yourself. But if you keep fighting, if you keep standing in our way, it'll be the end of everything." Jimin felt his chest tighten. "Why should I trust you now? After everything you've done?" Minseok's gaze softened just slightly, but there was a darkness behind his eyes that Jimin couldn't ignore. "Because I never wanted this for you. But the more I got involved, the more I realized you're not just fighting Seokjin. You're fighting a system that's been built to tear you apart. And I can't let that happen." Jimin's head was spinning. There were so many questions, so many unanswered truths. What was Seokjin's endgame? What was Minseok's role in all of this? And most importantly, where did Jungkook fit into the equation? Just then, his phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with Jungkook's name. "Jimin," Jungkook said, his voice frantic. "Seokjin, he's not just threatening us. He's planning something much bigger. You need to get out of there. He's not alone. He's working with someone from the past, someone you both know. Someone who has the power to bring everything down." The words hit Jimin like a punch. "What are you talking about?" But before Jungkook could answer, the call dropped. And in the silence that followed, Jimin felt a chill run down his spine. "Jimin," Seokjin said, his voice dangerously calm. "I think it's time you learned the truth. You're playing in a game you don't understand. You've crossed a line, and now there's no turning back. You're going to watch your entire world fall apart. I'm just here to make sure you know who to blame." Jimin's heart raced. He felt like the walls were closing in on him. Seokjin had played them all. And now, as the pieces started to fall into place, Jimin knew there was no way out. But he wasn't going to give up. Not yet. Jimin's head was spinning, his mind a chaotic whirlwind of questions and fear. The phone call with Jungkook had ended abruptly, and now, as he stood facing Seokjin and Minseok, the weight of their words began to settle in. He could feel the ground beneath him shifting, as if the very foundation of everything he had known was being pulled away, piece by piece. The sense of impending doom was overwhelming. Seokjin, still smirking with that malicious glint in his eyes, watched Jimin's every move, clearly enjoying the confusion and fear that had gripped him. It was like he was savoring the moment, knowing full well that he was about to destroy everything. "You really don't understand, do you, Jimin?" Seokjin's voice was smooth, calculated. "You've been running around trying to fix things that were never meant to be fixed. You're too late. All of you are." Jimin swallowed hard, forcing himself to steady his breath. He had to think. He had to act fast. The last thing he wanted was to show Seokjin that he was rattled. "What are you talking about?" Jimin's voice was colder now, more controlled. Seokjin raised an eyebrow, stepping closer. "Don't worry, Jimin. You'll understand soon enough. But let me give you a little piece of advice before this all comes crashing down around you. People like you don't win. You never did. It's always been about power, and you were too busy being the good guy to see that." Jimin's eyes narrowed, his pulse quickening. "Power," he repeated, his voice low. "You think this is about power? You think this is about winning?" Seokjin's lips curled into a wicked smile. "Oh, it's so much more than that. It's about survival. And you're about to realize that you were never in control." "Not really." Minseok, standing silently behind Seokjin, finally spoke. His voice was uncharacteristically soft, almost regretful. "Jimin, you don't know what you're up against. You think you can fix this by playing hero, by trying to hold everything together. But Seokjin's right. You can't fix what's already broken. Jimin's heart clenched at Minseek's words. There was no denying it. The weight of the situation, the magnitude of everything Seekjin had set in motion, it was too big. Too dangerous. They were all in way over their heads. But that didn't mean he was going to give up. Not now. I won't let you destroy everything, Jimin said, his voice fierce even as doubt gnawed at him. I'll fight back. I'll expose you. You won't get away with this. Seekjin let out a dry laugh. Expose me? Who's going to believe you, Jimin? You've already lost your credibility. You've already lost your trust. You've been living in a lie and it's too late to undo it. Jimin's fists clenched at his sides. I won't let you turn this into some game. I'll do whatever it takes to stop you. Seekjin's eyes flashed with amusement. Stop me? You think you can stop me? You can't even stop your own brother from falling into the trap I've set. And now you're just a pawn. You're all pawns. The sooner you accept that, the easier it will be. Jimin's gaze shifted to Jungkook, who was standing quietly behind Seekjin, his face pale and drawn. Jungkook looked broken, distant, like a shell of the person he used to be. Jimin wanted to run to him, to shake him, to make him understand what was happening. But there was something else, something deeper, that kept him frozen in place. Jungkook, Jimin called softly, his voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook didn't respond, but Jimin saw the faintest flicker of recognition in his eyes. For a moment, it felt like the distance between them had closed, like the brotherly bond they once shared was still there. But then Jungkook turned away and Jimin felt that connection slip away like sand through his fingers. Seekjin noticed the brief moment of vulnerability and pounced on it. You see, Jimin? You're not the one pulling the strings anymore. Jungkook's made his choice. He's here because he knows what's at stake. You're just too blinded by your own sense of righteousness to understand it. Jimin's chest tightened. The weight of Seekjin's words pressed down on him, but he couldn't give in. Not now. He couldn't let Seekjin win, couldn't let him tear his family apart. Suddenly, his phone buzzed in his pocket. Jimin didn't bother to check the screen this time, he knew who it was. Jungkook. He had to reach him, had to get through to him before it was too late. Listen to me, Seekjin, Jimin said, his voice firm. You can try to manipulate us, try to break us, but you won't win. Not while I'm still standing. Not while I'm still fighting for my brother. Seekjin's smile faltered for a moment. You think you can fight me, Jimin? You think you have the power to stop what's already in motion? Jimin stepped closer to Seekjin, his eyes never leaving his. I don't need to fight you, Seekjin. I just need to expose the truth. People like you? They always fall. And when you do, I'll be the one standing. Seekjin's expression darkened, the humor gone. You're naive. You've always been naive. I'm not afraid of you, Jimin. I'm afraid of nothing. And when this is all over, you'll realize that the one thing you've been trying to protect is the thing you've lost. Jimin felt his stomach drop. The words cut deeper than he wanted to admit. He was fighting for everything. His family. His brother. His future. But Seekjin had a point. The trust, the love, the bond they shared, it was fraying, slipping away like a dream they couldn't hold onto. You're wrong, Jimin muttered, his voice barely a whisper. I'll never lose him. I won't let you take everything from me. But even as he spoke the words, Jimin knew the fight was far from over. He was losing ground, and every step he took forward only seemed to push him deeper into the chaos. The truth was starting to unravel, but at what cost? Jimin felt the weight of Seekjin's words. He had always been the protector, the one who kept everything in place. But now, the walls were closing in, and he had no idea how much longer he could keep up the fight. His phone buzzed again, and this time he couldn't ignore it. He pulled it out of his pocket and stared at the screen. It was a message from Jungkook. Jimin, we need to talk. Meet me at the old house. Please, hurry. Jimin's heart raced. The old house? Why would Jungkook want to meet there? What was happening? I have to go, Jimin said abruptly, his eyes never leaving Seekjin's. I'll stop you. This isn't over. Seekjin chuckled darkly. Go ahead, Jimin. Go to your brother. You're just running away from the truth. You can't hide from it forever. Jimin didn't respond. He turned on his heel and rushed out of the alley, his feet pounding against the pavement. The world around him seemed to blur as his mind raced with questions. What was Jungkook trying to tell him? And how much time did they have before Seekjin's plans tore them apart? Jimin's heart pounded in his chest as he ran toward the old house, the place where so many of his childhood memories were tied. It stood there like a relic, a crumbling symbol of the past that had once felt so safe, so familiar. But now as he stood in front of it, it felt like a cage, a trap ready to snap shut around him. The air was thick with tension as he pushed open the front gate, the hinges creaking with a mournful sound. The house loomed before him, dark and silent, its windows like eyes watching his every move. He could feel his palms sweating, his nerves on edge. Something was wrong, something he couldn't quite put his finger on, but the message from Jungkook kept echoing in his mind. We need to talk. Jimin hesitated at the door, his fingers brushing the cold handle. The house had always been a place of comfort when they were younger. It had been where they'd laughed, fought, and dreamed of a future together. But now it was a place of shadows, full of secrets that none of them could ever escape. He pushed the door open, the heavy wood groaning under his weight. The smell of dust and neglect hit him immediately, the scent of forgotten years hanging in the air. The old wooden floors creaked under his steps as he made his way deeper into the house. Every room felt like a memory, a moment frozen in time. But nothing here was as it used to be. He called out, his voice barely a whisper. Jungkook. The silence that followed was deafening. He took another step, his eyes scanning the empty space, the room feeling colder with each passing second. And then, from the darkness, a figure emerged. Jimin's breath caught in his throat. It was Jungkook, but he looked different. Hollow. Haunted. His eyes were dark circles, and his usual vibrant energy was gone, replaced by something more desperate, more dangerous. Jimin, Jungkook said, his voice strained, as if he had been holding back something for far too long. I didn't want to drag you into this. But I don't know who else to turn to. I'm scared. Jimin's heart broke at the sight of his brother. What's going on, Jungkook? What did Seokjin do to you? What do you mean by all this? Jungkook's eyes flickered with fear as he looked around the room as if expecting someone to be watching them. I didn't have a choice, Jimin. Seokjin, he made me do things. Things I can't undo. And now it's too late. They know everything. Jimin stepped forward, his voice shaking with emotion. What did you do, Jungkook? Whatever it is, we can fix it. We can fix this. We'll get through it together. Jungkook turned away, pacing in agitation. You don't get it. This is bigger than us. I've made deals with people I can't control anymore. And they're coming for us. For all of us. The room felt like it was closing in on Jimin, the weight of his brother's words pressing down on him like 1,000 pounds. What was Jungkook talking about? What kind of deals had he gotten involved in? He couldn't keep up with the revelations, the secrets unfolding at an alarming rate. I don't understand, Jimin whispered, his hands trembling as he reached for Jungkook. I thought we were doing this together. We've always done everything together. You're not alone in this, Jungkook. You never were. Jungkook's voice cracked as he finally turned to face him. You don't understand, Jimin. I lied to you. I lied to everyone. I've been pretending everything was okay, but it was never okay. I was using people to get ahead. I thought if I kept going, kept moving forward, maybe I could escape all the darkness. But now he paused, his eyes filling with tears. Now it's all crashing down. Jimin's heart clenched in his chest, his brother's pain reflecting in his own. Jungkook, you don't have to carry this alone. Please, we can make this right. You don't have to hide anymore. Jungkook shook his head, his voice breaking. It's too late, Jimin. I'm too far gone. I've done things I can't take back. Before Jimin could respond, the sound of a door creaking open echoed through the house. His heart skipped. Who else was here? His eyes darted toward the hallway, his body tensing. And then he saw him. Seokjin stepped into the room, a smirk playing at the edges of his lips. I see you found your way back, Jimin, he said, his tone dripping with amusement. How nostalgic. Jimin's fists clenched, rage bubbling inside him at the sight of Seokjin. What the hell do you want, Seokjin? He spat. Seokjin's smile widened as he casually stepped into the room, his hands in his pockets. I'm here for the same reason as you, Jimin. To tie up loose ends. You see, Jungkook has been a very uncooperative partner. And now, well, it's time to settle things. Jimin's blood ran cold. You're still manipulating him. After everything? Seokjin's gaze flicked to Jungkook, who stood there, his face pale and conflicted. He's been my little puppet for a while now. You should be proud, Jimin. He's done some impressive work. But the time for games is over. It's time for you to choose. Jimin's pulse quickened. Choose? Choose what? Seokjin's smirk grew even wider. Whether you're going to save your brother or watch him sink deeper into the mess he's made. Either way, he's mine now. And I don't care how hard you try, you won't be able to pull him out of it. Jimin's voice trembled with fury. You won't get away with this. Seokjin laughed, the sound harsh and cold. I already have. The room felt like it was closing in on Jimin as the weight of Seokjin's words hit him. How had it all gone so wrong? How had they gotten this far? Suddenly, a loud crash came from the other side of the house. Jimin turned, startled. What was that? Who else was here? Before he could react, the door slammed open and in walked Taehyung, his face a mask of determination, his eyes burning with a fire Jimin had never seen before. You're done, Seokjin, Taehyung said, his voice steady and commanding. This ends tonight. Seekjin's expression faltered just for a moment before he regained his composure. Ah, Taehyung, you've come to join the fun? Or maybe you're here to clean up your mess. Taehyung stepped forward, his gaze never leaving Seekjin. You don't get it, do you? This is bigger than you. And you won't get away with what you've done. Not this time. Jimin stared at Taehyung, his heart racing. Taehyung, what are you, I'm not going to let Seekjin destroy everything we've worked for, Jimin, Taehyung interrupted, his voice firm. You're not in this alone. We're in this together. And I'm going to make sure Seekjin pays for what he's done. Seekjin chuckled, clearly amused by the threat. You think you can stop me? You've been running around trying to fix things, but it's too late. You're all too weak. Too predictable. Taehyung's eyes darkened. Maybe. But we've got something you'll never have each other. In that moment, Jimin felt a flicker of hope. Maybe they could still win. Maybe they could still stop Seekjin from tearing their lives apart. But it wasn't just about fighting Seekjin anymore. It was about confronting everything they had hidden from themselves, every lie, every betrayal, every piece of the puzzle that had kept them trapped. Seekjin was right about one thing, they had all been pawns. But no longer. The game was changing. And this time, Jimin was determined to be the one to control the board. The air was thick with tension. The walls of the old house, which had once echoed with the sounds of laughter and joy, now stood silent as if holding their breath. Every inch of the space felt suffocating. Jimin's heart beat painfully against his chest as he stood between Seekjin and Taehyung, the weight of everything that had happened pressing down on him. Seekjin, who had always been a shadow in their lives, now seemed larger than life. His smile, which had once been charming and calculating, now felt like a mask hiding something darker. His grip on the situation was tightening, and Jimin could see the way Seekjin's eyes gleamed with malice as he toyed with them, savoring the power he believed he held. But Jimin wasn't afraid. Not anymore. He was tired of running. Tired of hiding. His brother, his family, everything he had fought for was at stake. And he was done being a pawn in Seekjin's game. This ends tonight, Seekjin, Taehyung said, his voice calm but resolute. He was standing tall, not backing down. The power dynamic had shifted. Taehyung wasn't the same man he had been at the beginning of all this. He had grown stronger, more determined. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. He was fighting for Jimin, for Jungkook, and for the family they used to be. Seekjin's lips twitched upward into a smile, though it didn't reach his eyes. You think you can stop me, Taehyung? You think you have the strength to challenge me? You're all just a bunch of idealists who think you can fix the broken pieces. But that's not how the world works. The world doesn't give a damn about your good intentions. It's all about power. Jimin's blood boiled. He had heard these words before, had listened to Seekjin manipulate and control for far too long. But now hearing them again only fueled his resolve. He wasn't going to let Seekjin control them any longer. Not his brother, not Taehyung, and certainly not him. You've been playing with us long enough, Jimin said, his voice firm, his body tense. You think you've won? You think you've broken us? Well, you're wrong. You don't get to decide how this ends. We do. Seekjin's eyes flashed with amusement as if Jimin's defiance was a game to him. Oh, you think you're in control now? You're too late. The damage is done. Jungkook's already made his choices. You're just trying to clean up the mess, but it's beyond repair. Jimin's chest tightened as he glanced at Jungkook, who was still standing in the corner, silent and distant. There was so much pain in his eyes. Jimin could feel it. Jungkook had been through hell, manipulated and twisted by Seekjin's lies, and now it was up to him to break the cycle. Jungkook, Jimin said softly, his voice reaching out to his brother. It's not too late. We can fix this. We can make things right. Jungkook's eyes flickered briefly to Jimin, but then he turned away, his face hardening. I can't fix what I've done, Jimin. I've already crossed the line. There's no going back. Jimin took a step toward him, his heart breaking at the sight of his brother's defeated expression. You don't have to do this, Jungkook. You don't have to keep running from what's happened. We'll face this together. I'm not giving up on you. Jungkook looked at him then, his eyes full of pain and regret. I don't deserve you, Jimin. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I've done too many things I can't undo. Jimin reached out, his hand trembling as he placed it on Jungkook's shoulder. You're my brother. Your family. And I'll always be here. No matter what. For a moment, there was silence between them. Seekjin, watching from the sidelines, seemed to relish the pain in the room. But there was something else in his gaze now, something that Jimin couldn't quite place. Enough with the sentimental bullshit, Seekjin spat, his voice full of disdain. You really think this is about family? About loyalty? This is about survival, Jimin. And right now you're losing. Jimin turned to Seekjin, his jaw clenched with determination. No. You're the one who's losing, Seekjin. You've been playing us for too long. And now it's over. Seekjin's smirk faded, and for the first time there was a flash of anger in his eyes. You don't know what you're up against. You never did. I'm not the one who's afraid of losing. You are. And that's why you'll never win. Before Jimin could respond, there was a loud crash from upstairs. The sound echoed through the house, followed by hurried footsteps. Seekjin's eyes narrowed as he turned toward the noise. What the hell is that? He demanded, his voice sharp. Jimin's heart skipped a beat. He didn't have to look to know who it was. The figure that emerged from the shadows at the top of the stairs was unmistakable. It was Taehyung, but this wasn't the Taehyung they had known. His posture was different, the intensity in his eyes sharp, almost unrecognizable. He was holding something in his hand, something that gleamed in the dim light. Seekjin's face fell as he recognized it. What are you doing, Taehyung? He said, his voice a mixture of disbelief and fear. Taehyung didn't answer. Instead, he stepped forward, his expression unwavering as he held out the weapon in his hand, an envelope sealed tightly, covered with markings that Jimin recognized all too well. This is the evidence, Taehyung said, his voice cold and unwavering. Everything you've done, everything you've planned, it's all in here. Seekjin's eyes widened as he realized what Taehyung was holding. How did you? I've been watching you for longer than you think, Taehyung said, his gaze fixed firmly on Seekjin. I knew you were planning something, and I've been gathering the pieces. You won't get away with it this time. Jimin's heart raced as the reality of the situation hit him. The game had changed. Seekjin wasn't in control anymore. They had the upper hand, and now it was up to them to make sure Seekjin paid for everything he had done. You think you can just expose me? Seekjin's voice was full of venom, but there was a tremor in his words now. You think you've won? Taehyung nodded, his expression determined. We've won, Seekjin. It's over. Seekjin's anger flared, but there was something else in his eyes now, a hint of fear. He knew it. The walls were closing in on him. I'm not going down without a fight, Seekjin snarled, stepping back, his hand reaching for something hidden in his jacket. But before he could make a move, Taehyung was already 2 steps ahead. The weapon in his hand was quick and precise, and in one swift motion, the evidence was gone, sealed, locked away where Seekjin could never touch it again. You're done, Seekjin, Taehyung said. This ends now. The room was silent. Seekjin stood there, frozen, his face a mixture of disbelief and fury. He had underestimated them all. And now there was nothing left for him to do but watch as everything he had built collapsed. Jimin felt the weight of the moment. They had done it. They had taken back control. But as he looked at his brother, at Taehyung, there was a part of him that couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't truly over. Not yet. There were still wounds to heal, secrets to uncover, and trust to rebuild. But for now they had won. And for the first time in what felt like forever, Jimin allowed himself to believe in the possibility of a future, of hope. The house was silent now, the air heavy with the tension of everything that had just transpired. Jimin stood in the middle of the room, his body exhausted, his mind racing. The chaos of the last few hours had taken its toll, but as he looked at his brother, Taehyung, and the remnants of Seekjin's manipulation, something in him was changing. The weight of the truth had settled, and although the battle had been won, there was still so much left to repair. Seekjin was gone now, taken into custody, the papers he'd tried to manipulate them with sealed away, proof of his schemes locked in the hands of those who would make sure he could never harm anyone again. Jimin had fought for his family, his brother, but even now, as the dust settled, there was an uneasy calm in the air. This was supposed to be the end of it, the resolution, the moment of peace. But instead, it felt like the calm before the storm. Jungkook, Jimin said, his voice soft, his gaze not leaving his brother. The weight of the words seemed to hang between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. We need to talk. Jungkook hadn't said much since Taehyung had taken control of the situation. He had retreated into himself, his eyes filled with regret, guilt, and a kind of brokenness that Jimin couldn't ignore. The damage Seekjin had done to him, no, to all of them, was deeper than any of them could have anticipated. But there was still hope. There had to be. Jungkook looked up, his expression vacant, before slowly meeting Jimin's gaze. I don't deserve forgiveness, Jimin. I've made so many mistakes, so many things I can't take back. Jimin stepped forward, his heart aching at the sight of his brother, so vulnerable, so lost. You don't have to carry this alone, Jungkook. You never did. We've been through too much together for me to just turn my back on you now. Jungkook swallowed, his voice hoarse. But I've hurt you, Jimin. And Taehyung. I lied to you both, dragged you into something you never should have been a part of. Jimin shook his head. You're not alone in this. We're a family. And families, no matter how broken, find their way back to each other. You don't have to keep punishing yourself. Taehyung, who had been standing off to the side, watching the exchange with quiet intensity, stepped forward. His presence was steady, like a rock in a storm, and Jimin was grateful for it. We've all made mistakes, Jungkook, Taehyung said, his voice calm but firm. But that doesn't define who we are. You've been through hell, but we're here now. We'll get through this together. Jungkook's eyes welled with tears, his shoulders shaking. For the first time in a long time, he seemed to collapse, the weight of everything finally breaking him. I don't know how to fix this, how to make it right. You don't have to fix everything, Jungkook, Jimin said, his voice gentle but unwavering. What matters now is that we're here. We're still a family. And we'll take it one step at a time. Jungkook looked at him, his eyes full of pain, but there was something else there now, a flicker of hope. Slowly, hesitantly, he nodded. I don't deserve you, but I'll try. I'll try to make it right. The room was quiet again, but this time it was different. There was no longer the heavy air of confrontation or deceit. Instead, it felt like the first breath after a long struggle, a moment of peace before the healing began. Suddenly, a loud crash sounded from outside. Jimin and Taehyung both jumped, their bodies instinctively tensing. What now? Had something else gone wrong? Before they could react, the door burst open and in walked Minsik, his face bruised and bloodied but unmistakably alive. Jimin's heart stopped in his chest. What the hell is going on? Jimin demanded, his mind racing. He had thought Minsik was done for. He had been captured, his role in Seekjin's schemes exposed. But here he was, standing in front of them, a broken man who had once been a shadow in their lives. Minsik's gaze was cold, calculating. I'm not here to fight you, Jimin, he said, his voice hoarse, but there was an edge to it. I'm here to tell you the truth. Jimin stepped back, his hand instinctively moving to protect Jungkook, but Minsik held up his hands, signaling that he wasn't a threat. What do you want? Jimin asked, his voice taut with suspicion. Minsik's eyes shifted toward Jungkook. It's not over, Jungkook. There's still one thing Seekjin left unfinished. One last piece of the puzzle that you need to understand. Jungkook looked at him, confusion and fear clouding his expression. What are you talking about? Minsik took a deep breath as if deciding whether to reveal what he knew. Seekjin wasn't just manipulating you. He was using you as a pawn in something much bigger. Something much more dangerous. Jimin's heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Minsik lowered his voice, his words laced with urgency. There are people out there, people you don't know, who have been behind everything. Seekjin wasn't the mastermind. He was just the tool. The real players, they're still out there. And if you don't stop them, everything you've fought for, everything you've worked to protect, it'll all be destroyed. Jimin felt the blood drain from his face. It wasn't over. This was just the beginning. What are we supposed to do now? Taehyung asked, his voice steady but filled with apprehension. Minsik's gaze hardened. You have to find them. You have to stop them before they finish what they started. Jimin turned to Taehyung and Jungkook, his mind racing. We can't let them win. Not after everything we've been through. Jungkook nodded slowly, his eyes filled with resolve. I'll do whatever it takes. I don't want to be a pawn anymore. I won't let them control me. Jimin's chest tightened, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of hope. This wasn't over. They still had a chance. Together, they could fight this. Minsik turned toward the door, preparing to leave. I'll give you what I know, he said, his voice low. But you'll have to move fast. They're watching. As Minsik disappeared into the night, Jimin felt the weight of what was coming. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy. The past would always be a shadow over them. But for the first time, Jimin felt like they were no longer powerless. They had each other. And that was all they needed. As the door closed behind Minsik, Jimin turned to his brother, his family. We're not done yet. We fight. For our future. For our family. Jungkook met his eyes, his voice steady. Together. Taehyung, standing at their side, gave a rare smile. Together. The journey ahead was uncertain. But they were no longer defined by the lies or the past. They were defined by the choices they made from this moment forward. And as long as they had each other, nothing could break them.